Messi. Messi! Oh my goodness! Balotelli! Aguero! That is extraordinary! What a head, son! What a head! Back of the net.
We are back. Back again. Pundits back. Tell your friends. I'm Killian and I'm delighted to be joined, as ever, by Conor Glennon and Nathan Byrne. This is not a pundit, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Please call me by my new full name, Carabao Cup winner, Conor. That is my title going forward. Yes, it's pathetic, but we are going to dine out in it for as long as possible. I am very well. How are you, my friend Nate?
I'm good. I'm glad you enjoyed winning the Energy Drink Cup. Yeah, all good here. United win, which is different. Something that we haven't said much this year, but yeah, all good. How are you, Killian?
I'm great. Nate, I'm going to throw it to you for the big news out of the Northeast. Obviously, it's been on the tip of all of our tongues. I haven't actually stopped talking about it. I'm sure Conor hasn't anyway. Gateshead apparently are going to be bought by a consortium headed up by Victor Anichebe. Isn't that mad? Big Vic.
Honestly, it's probably the biggest news out of the Northeast this week. Yeah, it's a bit mental.
You're an awful bunch, you know that. You truly are just deplorable people.
70 years since Newcastle won a trophy, and I had to be born and start a podcast and have it the year that this win won.
I'll be honest, boys. I think I said it to you before the game. 99 times out of 100, we don't win that game. I am very, very glad, to win a trophy, obviously. And whether it was the most boring 1-0 win or the game that it was, it wouldn't have mattered to me. But I do think, man for man, we outplayed Liverpool in every position. I think it's, I suppose, the most up for it I've ever seen us without the fear. Like, I think if we go back to that cup final against United 2 years ago, we were just shell-shocked throughout. We didn't have a single foothold in the game at all. And I think from minute one, we definitely put a stamp on the game. And look, there definitely is questions about Liverpool and what happened there. And I know they didn't have Trent or Conor Bradley, which on a big pitch like Wembley does hurt you. But you would have thought those players are more used to finals than our boys. But we absolutely bloody bossed them. And I love it.
See, like, obviously for the fans, yous are all delighted. Does it mask over how, though? Like, is he still, like, we've touched on time and time again, is he the guy to bring yous forward? Because, like, I know he's getting teary-eyed, but I saw some suggestions of him getting a statue, and I'm like, don't
even start with that.
Spell Carabao, lads, before you start talking about statues for winning it.
The best way I can describe that whole statue chat is, I think it was on The Overlap or one of the other podcasts, and one of the fans was like, managers get sacked for winning the Carabao Cup. Like, let's put this in perspective. Like Louis van Gaal got sacked after winning, was it the FA Cup night?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I am very aware it's not the highest level silverware available to us. It's just bloody good to crack the duck. But going back to the Eddie Howe question, I think you look at it in a couple of ways. Does it mask over the issues? No. If you look at the last 3 transfer windows, we've brought in one player into the first team directly. That's like a first team starter. So, I mean, he has had to play with the players available to him. I think you can look at players like Jacob Murphy, Joe Linton as Eddie Howe masterclass in terms of Joe Linton was rubbish before Eddie Howe got his hands on him. And again, going back to the cup final, outside Big Dan Burn, Joe Linton was absolutely everywhere. It was the best, I think, game he's ever played. It was some last dance Michael Jordan energy. So I think, long story short, even taking out what Eddie Howe's managed to bring to the club, there is still questions there, yes. But I do think winning that trophy gives him the cash in the bank. He's till the end of next season.
Nate, was this a good performance from Newcastle, but a much worse performance than Liverpool? Like, did Liverpool win this lose this game rather than Newcastle winning it.
That's interesting. I think part of it could have been Liverpool lost the Tuesday beforehand, possibly. They seemed a bit down in the dumps. It sort of highlighted how much they rely on Mohamed Salah, like, in my opinion. Um, you know, I don't mean to harp back, but I did say Liverpool, once they lose a few games, it might spiral, and I think could we be seeing that possibly? Um, but yeah, I think in terms of like Newcastle, I thought they were brilliant. Like, I thought they were playing as if it was a cup final where Liverpool wasn't. And I think they dominated them. I think they were very aggressive and got stuck in.
I think you're right with the Salah point, and look, I absolutely love Mohamed Salah. I think he's been an incredible servant to Liverpool. He is an unbelievable footballer. But the one stat that, look, us Newcastle people love stats. God knows we were on the wrong side of them for a long time. But the one that I did see after the final was, I think it was either 10 or 11. I think it's 11 cup finals that he's been involved in with club and country, and he's never scored in any of them. Which, look, I'm not trying to
From
say,
open play, I think that was, and I think he's had
yeah,
2 penalties or something stupid
yeah,
like that.
like, and I'm not trying to take away from the player that he is in the season that he's having, but that is, and I'm not trying to say he's not a big game player, but that is an issue. If you're a team that are heavily dependent on one player like they are, I do wonder how Liverpool would have performed if they'd had Trent or Conor Bradley from a delivery perspective, and I think that overall, both, you know, you heard pundits talking about both the overlap and the underlap that those two players bring, and it did seem like, from a delivery point of view, just distribution, and a runs point of view, Liverpool were stale, and I think those then infected further up the pitch with Salah. Look, Salah has created many goals solo this season, but I think in a pitch that big and an occasion that big against a team that have nothing to lose, really, that is not the way to win games. And he struggled. They struggled.
Um, when you're talking about kind of the one man and the reliance on it, our boy Camilo has sent in a message, Connor, for you.
Oh God, I'm scared now.
Boys, I am elated for Conor and Newcastle. As a lifelong Liverpool fan, believe it or not, there is a Liverpool fan in Uruguay where I first developed my love for the name, lol. Obviously, Liverpool Montevideo is a top league club out there who, if any football manager aficionados out there in 2024, I think it's Fabrizio Diaz is a youth player from there who I've signed multiple times. Great youth prospect club. I waited 30 years until the pandemic title, so I can only imagine what this means to him. A few weeks ago, I mentioned my frustration with Arne and his unwillingness to adapt at times. Boys, Newcastle battered us with essentially the same game plan as PSG. Great press, ball movement, and possession. And while I'm sure-ish that Liverpool will win the title, I think I can finally say we've all collectively seen the holes in Arne's system and culture. Obviously, striker is concerned. I'm curious what Conor thinks about potentially losing Isak to us in the summer and how Newcastle build off of what I would consider another positive season. So obviously 2 questions kind of there. 3 really. Have we seen the chink in Arne's armour? What would you do if you lose Isak, and will that leave you in a position at all to be able to build off of a positive season? So I think take that in reverse order. Losing Isak, what would that mean to you and building on this season?
Well, first of all, I think that's the first humble Liverpool fan I've ever met. So thank you for the lovely words. In terms of Isak, there's been many a conspiracy theory in Newcastle fan forums since the final where Isak was having a chat with Van Dijk. Van Dijk seemed puzzled when he walked away, and everyone is jokingly saying, he's going, I hope you stay on for next season because I'll be there. I don't think we lose him this summer. I don't think we have him the summer after that. Would be the way I look at it. He's putting up numbers and performances at a young age comparatively in football that I think it's undeniable that larger teams than us will want him and he will want to go there. I'm not worried about it this summer. After that, I am. I don't know about you, Nate. Like, do you think he's staying?
I don't think Liverpool can sign him this summer. Like, I don't see them signing Isaac for that fee when they still have that £80 million mistake on their bench. Like, I just don't see it happening. I think they need to shift him and take the loss on Nunes. And to be honest, I don't see any club that will be lining up for Nunes, especially after missing that penalty as well. So I don't know. It's a tough one. Like if I was Isaac, like would you want to move when you're in that form and you're settled? I don't know.
Also, I think you look like a turncoat. It's not okay. Like it. You could look at it one way or the other. Yeah, he brought the first trophy to the city in 70 years. But if you dip out straight after that, you're not going to be loved. We'll put it that way.
But when you look at it from Liverpool's perspective, can they afford not to try and go for him? Like,
I think Arsenal are more likely than Liverpool.
I don't know, because like when you look at Liverpool in terms of the Salah situation and whether or not he goes, and I know you said Nunes, and who knows, maybe they will try and cash in on him. Like they have a lot of wingers, they don't have a lot of strikers. They have a lot of forwards, not that many goal scorers, and this it seems to be kind of petering out to be an unconvincing Premier League win. I'm convinced they're still going to do it, but it went from being kind of, oh yeah, absolutely, to kind of reliant on other teams not catching up to
they're
them.
like 15 points ahead though, aren't they? Like they're bossing it still.
Well, you say bossing it, but it's the worst Premier League like season we've seen in God knows how long. Like I like, and I'm not trying to harp back at it, but I did say once Slot messes up, it's going to spiral, and I think it has. I just think it took too long for teams to figure out how to break them down. And as Camilo said, is we're not seeing enough of him trying to adapt his style of play to get away from these teams.
Well, see, is that the kind of thing now that we're... I know I praised kind of the plan Bs in his formation, but that was more kind of in terms of how players reacted to the game around them. But in terms of a tactical, they've figured out what we're doing here as a team, has Slot actually prepared enough for beyond plan A? Kind of going, yeah, you just move around, and if this happens, you just do this. But there's no kind of like, now that PSG is kind of nearly given a game plan, just go out and do this. And Newcastle went and did that. Is this going to be the worry now for the rest of the season?
It's not even just PSG. We saw it. We've seen it when they played Southampton, when they played Ipswich. Like you see where the holes lie in this Liverpool team. It's just it's taken a PSG when it's on the line to go out and actually put it to them. Like I think the issue we have this season is I don't think there's too many motivated Premier League teams currently. You know, you've got the few in and around the top four, and then we've got teams that are like miles afloat in the relegation battle. I think that's the difference is when you have a Newcastle side and a PSG side who are going in with nothing to lose, that's where the holes come afloat. Like
I think it's also a case, like you said, Killian, of the adaptation of it. I think Plan A has worked so well for so much of the season. He hasn't really had to plan for a Plan B. And look, I do think it's an issue that isn't. Look, you can fix that issue pretty swift. They just need to be more concrete defensively when there's a high press against them. And to be fair to them, they've had injuries in that department, and arguably they've got defenders who can't defend, say some people. But yeah, look, I don't think it's a case. Yeah, Liverpool have been found out in their current way of playing, but it's not like it's pep ball, where it's so hard to change any factor of it. I think this is an easier fix.
Can this team play a different way? Like,
but that's the other question.
We've got aging defenders. We've got defenders with people saying that they can't defend. Okay, if they go more defensively, then can the attack from a deeper position? We've got an older Salah. We've got other attackers that aren't producing. Like, can they switch to that style? I personally don't know.
There is the other thing, we kind of like, just to play devil's advocate here, like, it's the Carabao Cup. do we think that Liverpool fans or the Liverpool board are going to be sweating and losing any sleep over the fact that they lost in this final?
Yes, 100%.
Really?
They had a treble on the cards.
But it's not a true trouble.
Like if you spoke to Liverpool fans a week ago, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we like we're in the Champions League, we're in this." Like to them, they had a treble on the cards, and a week later, that's gone. So of course, like they'll be annoyed about it.
But there's a difference between being annoyed about it and like really putting stakes in the line over it. Like, if you were to lose in any of the competitions, it'd be the first one you'd choose to. Now, that being capitulated off the back of losing in the Champions League, that's where this thing kind of comes in. But like, do you think, Conor, that this is going to be the point where Slot is going to have to kind of shift into a different gear for the rest of the season, or do you think they're actually safe enough, tick on doing what you're doing?
I think they're safe enough because I don't know if there's not too many teams that are able to press like that. Like I'm not saying Newcastle are, god level team with, global superstars. We just managed to crack the code and arguably have one of the best midfields in the Premier League. But I don't think every team in the Premier League is able to do what PSG and Newcastle did. So I think they'll be able to coast for the rest of the season. They'll work on it in the background, recruit in the summer, and go again next year with a plan B.
And in terms of Newcastle now, is this going to set you up to really put on a Champions League push? Is this going to give you his confidence to kind of push on, or do you think that there could be that kind of, like we've seen that a load of times before, get a nice win or something and teams kind of, oh, okay, we know what we're doing now, and then suddenly they face a team that they didn't know what they were doing against, and then it doesn't go the way they want?
Look, the boys are out in Dubai at the minute. I can only imagine
Shock.
the volume of rock shandies they'll be having out there. So we'll see what shape they come back in first. Obviously, there's a couple of players in international duty as well. Hopefully, they stay fit. Look, I don't want to blow the win out of proportion. Obviously, it's massive to the fan base. It does get it gets it off our back that every conversation of you haven't won anything in forever, and I think they can just focus on games. They also know they can win big games now, but I do think we still need to treat it like it's just another day. You know what I mean? Like yes, it's a win. Yes, it's amazing. Let's celebrate it, and bit of goldfish brain about it. Let's back to basics and keep ploughing on as we have this year. Because look, we've had a great season. There's been a couple of poor performances and we've lost points to teams we shouldn't. But as for Champions League, I don't know if it'll change anything, to be honest.
As Roy Keane would say, but it's your job. Just go out and win. Yeah, like I had to laugh at the club's tweet though about Kieran Trippier being the first one to buy into the project. Like Callum Wilson was there. Like even maybe the first signing under the new ownership, but like it kind of, I outside of looking in, I kind of thought it did a little bit of a disservice to the likes of who's the defender, Kraft and stuff.
Yeah,
like all these guys that have been there a lot longer and.
Were they buying into the project or were they taking a step up?
They're the ones that have
Callum,
shielded the team while he can't spend.
Callum Wilson going from Bournemouth to Newcastle, I don't really know if it's buying into the project. I think it's just an upward
Trippier going from
move.
Atletico, where he was earning more money and had a longer term contract on the table.
And came back from a ban for gambling.
Yes, there is that element, but yeah, no, I think it was a fair statement. I think Trippier, look, he was getting well remunerated by Newcastle for making that step, but like I said, he walked away from more money with a team that's guaranteed Champions League. He could have easily stayed there in a fantastic team with a fantastic manager. I think he was the first player that sent a bit of a flare out that we could attract better players than we had, and arguably at that point Trippier was better than we could get, and without that I don't know how the project would have gone. Like he's also a seasoned international leader within the squad. Yes, his off the field antics aren't great and have brought a lot of unwanted press to the team, but in terms of his activity on the pitch, I think it's a fair statement, and I'm bloody glad we have.
I don't know. I just thought it was kind of. I was a lot more impressed about the guys that have stuck it out and managed to find a place in the team when you're signing bigger players than I would be for the guy that tried to rebuild his reputation off user back. But you did mention international football, and obviously we are coming up to the international break.
Boo!
Nate, Heimer's latest squad. What did you make of the announcement? Obviously, there was two injury swaps from the initially announced one. I think Ryan Manning and Andrew Moran is in now. But what was your kind of thoughts overall about the announcement?
Listen, I think there's only so much you can react to an Ireland squad without there's nothing going to be groundbreaking. I thought it was good to see a few youngsters thrown in. But yeah, I think we just now need to see a development on a way of playing. I think we need to see more defensive structure, which players are going to take the mantle on that. And yeah, what is this his third international break now? It's
Yeah.
we need to start seeing the foundation. So I'm happy with it, but until I see some improvement on the pitch and a step forward, I'm not going to be joyous about seeing the same names really.
Can you be happy though when Matt Doherty and Robbie Brady are in an Ireland squad in the year of our Lord 2025?
I do think I did. The Brady one tickled me, but
Brady, I don't mind as much. I think
Honestly, I'd rather Brady than Doherty.
yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, leave Brady in there. I can get it from a culture point of view or anything like that. But Doherty, when's the last time he played?
Well, that's the thing, because with Brady, at least, Brady is performing well at a good team. He's scoring goals. He's assisting.
He's scored for Ireland recently.
Yeah, he's rediscovered a form. And yeah, look, we're kicking the can down the road like we've talked about before by not bringing in younger talent. But let's face it, we're pretty hamstrung in terms of options. And if we don't utilize players that are performing well, what are we doing? At least in the short term, we just need to get this ship. We're not even back to steady. We need to get it out from under the water. The Matt Doherty one just, the only way I can rationalize that is he the glue guy in the camp? Is he?
He's not.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The only rationale to keep fucking bringing him is if he's beloved and even off the pitch brings something, but he doesn't.
He's
If he's the glue, then give me the thing that dissolves it.
He's the type of fella you say something about him and he's doing a 3-part interview the next day about it. He's definitely not the glue, I'll tell you that.
But that's what I mean. It's not his footballing abilities. It's not his chemistry within the team. Is it a case when they print the team sheet in the FAI that his name's just on the paper before it goes out?
I think it's purely the fact that they look at the players and they go, "Oh, this fella's still in the Premier League somehow." I think that's
barely though. Is he even?
Right.
You know?
I think that's how they go about it. Is "Oh, this guy's still on a Premier League team. Yeah, we got to call him up."
He is still that first Nuno season when Wolves got promoted. He's still riding on the coattails of that season, when he was playing right wing back and cutting into the centre. Since then, what has he done other than not play for Atletico and now not play for Wolves? It's ridiculous. But generally, Conor, I think it was a squad announcement going in the right direction. As Nate said, some good young players being brought in. Great to see Rocco Vata commit to Ireland. There
Really
was
good.
worries about Albania and potentially Scotland. Great to see him. This is what we should be doing with these young players. He has been showing a lot of commitment to our younger teams. Give him the caps.
Yeah,
tie him down.
We need both, whether it's a Robbie Brady that we need to get in the team because he's performing well, or someone who is a great player that we need to lock down. We need to just start locking players down. And I don't want, like I've said before, I don't want players who are just coming to get an international cap with any country. That'll do it, but that is not the case here. And if the alternatives are footballing nations like Albania, who look, I don't even know would we beat them at the moment, to be honest with you, but we should be beating them. And like, if we're to lose players, it should be to high caliber teams that you're like, okay, I understand that, but when you put a player like that and his other options are Albania, we need to secure those players and just get them 2, 3, 4 caps. And look, if they don't work, they don't work. But we won't know until we try.
Like one of the things we did kind of criticize Heimer for before was his media handling and or lack thereof. I'm just seeing here that John O'Shea has been out in the media, which
Again, like
His
really,
media handling is still shocking. Did you see the late stuff?
the late I thought was
No,
it was
but like
fine.
he's still going on about this League of Ireland stuff. Like it doesn't look good, does it?
well,
No.
they need to kill stories better than they are. They're giving oxygen to a lot more of this than they need to.
Again, as we always said, that it was more FAI comms, not minding some of these situations in a way that, like, if it was Man United or Newcastle or something, you'd have somebody kind of going, actually, just maybe. But John O'Shea insists club time was the determining factor in different animal Matt Doherty bouncing back from his shock Ireland axing. And apparently he's a shoe-in, according to
Well,
O'Shea.
when the manager, let's just call him the manager because he's picking the team, doing the interviews, Heimer's almost turned into the sidekick. But I think when someone in the management team says something like that, Matt Doherty has to come out and prove that, or he's gone. Has to be gone. Like if they're saying it's a rebirth of him, he's rediscovered form, and he just comes out and plays another dud.
Wait, where was the bounce back? Because I think I missed it.
That's what I mean. Like,
But the bounce back is that he's gotten game time under the new Wolves manager.
isn't
like
he
this-
great? Like,
Oh,
man turns up to work, gets an award. Like
All right, Kino. But like there is the other element of it we can't forget about Doherty, and despite the fact that he may come at us over anything that we've said here, is he's 33. Like this isn't somebody that you should be investing as much time and effort in. Like he was fuming that he got dropped early into Heimer's tenure. Good, we want that reaction, but you deserved every minute of it, and arguably you still deserve it to be now.
Can we stop acting like this fella's messy as well, please? Like, like I know he wears the number 7 jersey, but like, do you know what I mean? Like,
A crime, still a crime. We said it when we first started the podcast. Crime.
I swear he gets covered for Ireland like he's messy. I think that just shows how bad our quality is.
Well, like that's the thing when we're talking about bringing out a 33-year-old every single team. It's not a 33-year-old who is banging in goals. It's a 33-year-old who's causing goals against us. We could talk about this till the cows come home. I just will never understand it, and I'm sick to death of Irish managers picking the same team over and over and over. It's that whole thing like the idea
Jeff
of man
Hendrick
is doing everything the same and changing nothing, you know.
Oh,
Jeff Hendrick.
and, like it's actually like when you sit down and put it into perspective, our assistant manager, who's like technically our manager, at this point,
He's the co-manager, honestly. Let's just call him that at this point. Like,
yeah, it's like remember the Salford duo that they're both managers together. Like that's
Yeah.
basically what we've got going on. But we're basically speaking about a 33-year-old right back who's currently helping his manager battle relegation, like he's Lionel Messi, because he is literally somehow he's the biggest thing to do with Irish football. Like I don't get it. Like,
Isn't it mad he's talked himself into international contention?
by bad mouthing the team.
Yeah, like that's basically what's happened here. But like, let's look at the team. Obviously, Jake O'Brien has found some form and some game time at last under
He's a
David
player.
Moyes. But at right back, so who would you be starting? Because for me, unless it's going to be a wing back situation, I think there's only one solution.
Jake O'Brien every day of the week.
Well, like it's a no-brainer. Like it's the sky's blue. Like play Jake O'Brien. Like
I think the fact he's now right back actually suits Ireland. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? We were
Like,
struggling to fit centre backs in. Like,
if we were to play with a back five, I would rather have Jake on the right hand side of the three, and then have Jason Knight as your wing back, because obviously he's played right back for Derby for ages, in his former team. Now he's at Bristol. He's very versatile. So if we're going to play a wing back, play him, because he's just going to run anyway. He might not do much else, but he'll run. And then just having Jake O'Brien in the squad is a good thing.
I agree with you if we are to play five at the back, but I swear to God, if we play five at the back, I am going to absolutely twig.
If we played four at the back and I see Doherty ahead of Jake O'Brien, I'll tweet. Like I'm just being deadly serious. Like there's nothing on this earth that should stop Jake O'Brien starting the next two games for Ireland.
But like this goes back to what we're saying. Like, invest in the future. Like, he is the future of that position. Like, why are we waiting?
Forget the breakaway League of Ireland. We might have a breakaway national team if Doherty starts.
Yeah.
But looking at the midfield, Cullen, Knight, Taylor, Sykes, Aziz, Moran. Nothing to complain about, nothing to get excited about. Good to see Moran.
The midfield's so poor though. Like we need to see some serious shake up there. Like
who else could have been brought in though?
But that's the thing, is like that's the worry, is who else could be brought in. Is like we need to be proactive in our thinking on how we line out our midfield, because having two sideways passes is just not going to go to.
Yeah, it's not great, but yeah, like I don't know. Depending on how they play, what kind of more concerns me is the fact of how few wide players we've brought. Like, I know Sinclair,
we just don't have them. You know?
Yeah, like I know Sinclair Armstrong can play out there. Johnston is an out winger. Vata, which is great to see, as we said. He's a winger. Warren, you could play out there, but you're not going to get the best out of him.
Why are we at a point now? Like, all around the team, we're going, oh, he might work over there. Like, there has to be players that are Irish or have eligibility to play for Ireland, that, you know what, it's actually their position. It's not just, we'll try that. Like, what are we doing?
You up the granny rule. Bring them all in.
Honestly, at this point, with that midfield, I want scouts out in every niche country you can possibly imagine, finding someone for us.
Surely half of America is eligible for Ireland, like.
Well, the last proper prospect from America that was eligible for us was Jack McGlynn, but he's now cap-tied in the same kind of way that Liam Delap is, Conor. There is a winger who is out in America. He's now eligible for America, John Gallagher, who is playing well. So he's a winger, but he plays left or right back for Austin. He kind of plays left back. He's playing at the weekend.
Hi, Mir, are you hearing this? Sign him up, please.
And I think he's 27 now. So I don't think it's beyond the realms of reason to do it. There's there's your man out, Paul Niebel, who is like one of the breakout stars of the Bundesliga, Irish eligible. Why aren't we getting him? An attacking midfielder.
Also, like, just off the back of Paddy's Day, just to bring the relevance in, where half the world claims to be Irish, is like, come on, the scouts, you aren't looking for needles in haystacks here. Like, there's got to be ties for a lot of these fellas. Like,
if Jamie Carragher's son can play for Malta, there has to be some good players out there for Ireland.
I thought I honestly read that wrong when I saw that he declared for Malta, and like it the first thing that came into my head after realizing it was actually Jamie Carragher's kid was you, Killian, because it's that whole thing of, would you rather play for a tiny team and be the hero?
Go and be the hero. Why not? Have fun with it. It's going to be class. And obviously, Jamie Carragher has a good Irish connection as well, and so does Malta. There's a Maltese Irish team out there. There's a team in Malta based
Maltese FC Maltesers
now. I was probably a couple of months ago now. I was actually got to meet the ambassador to Ireland from Malta, and he was talking about the Irish connection to Malta and true football, and there's teams that have been founded by Irish people out there.
Oh, wow.
So it's a little island we should explore and
Yeah.
see that Irish connection obviously now being played out through James Carragher, who is of course always welcome to come on the pod. Why not, sir? You go out and have fun with the Maltese. I love it. I think there should be more of that. But with the players that we have at our disposal, are you going into this window excited? Like, do you think that there's going to be an element of kind of going, okay, if we get a couple of results here, there's something to build on, or is there, after the last international break, there was a level of apathy from you? Is that kind of just holding out now? We've kind of bit like,
to be honest, it's
never.
been a long time since I've been excited about an international break in general, regardless of Ireland. But I'm kind of desensitized to the whole thing. Like, obviously, it's a bloody football podcast. I'll evidently be watching the game, but I'm kind of going into it defeatist a little bit. Like, I'm not expecting to see anything new. I'm expected to come away from it annoyed, disappointed, and frustrated as per usual, as per every other bloody international break at this point. And maybe I'm just in a bad mood, but I just, that team doesn't say anything to me that goes, oh yeah, things might be changing. It just feels like another same team. We're going to play the same football, and it's going to go in the same direction. It's look. Hopefully, I'm wrong, but yeah, I don't know about you, Nate. I'm still in the where we left off after the last international break.
Yeah, same old, same old. I think Irish football's in dire straits. Like, and it. I think the worst thing about that is it doesn't feel like a hard thing to say for me because it's so evident. Um, I think the issue is like when we're looking at tournaments down the line, is like, can we say that we have a better chance of qualifying for a tournament now than we did before? I think absolutely not. So, like, where's the roundabout that gets us on the right trajectory? I personally don't know.
If the squad was full of young players that you didn't necessarily know, would you be more excited?
Yeah.
Kind of going in expecting losses rather than maybe not losses, but kind of going, okay, well, I have something to kind of build on and look forward to.
Absolutely, because like at least we're trying something. Like it's my problem has been that if you look at an Irish team of 10 years ago, a lot of the players that are there now were there then. That's my issue, and we're so dependent on a core group of players whose ability is not fantastic. So yeah, I've said I would have no problem. Look, we're going to miss out in the World Cup anyway. At least let's try and build towards the next one with a group of young players. I don't see the harm in that. And yet, look, I don't know if there's a manager in the world who would sign up for that, knowing that you're just trying to effectively be a youth coach in an international team, and you're going to get the sack because you don't get the World Cup, and if you're not from here, you're not going to see the bigger picture. But I would absolutely look. Maybe I would sound like some bloody martyr, but like I just think what we're doing is pointless, and we need to build for the future.
I'm actually like, I'm at a point where like I'm okay now to say I think keeping John O'Shea was a big mistake.
Just as part of the staff.
Just as part of the staff, I think lines got too blurred when you were leading them on for what was it, 3 months at one stage. Like, lines got seriously blurred there. I think there's an issue with him being from the old administration.
Yeah.
Is like, what's changing is the same ideology just coming over. Like, I feel like Irish football was at that stage where it just needed a clean cut, and I don't think we saw that. And he's like, I love John O'Shea as much as the next man. Like, he's a legend in my book and this and that, but I do think it was a mistake to keep him.
Looking back with hindsight, probably. I do want to say though that at the time I was glad he was there. It did give me some belief in the squad, and I understood why they kept him with Heimer for a transition, I suppose. But him still being there,
when does the transition end?
Yeah, and it's also like, it's those blurred lines, like you said. Like, if if he'd kind of stayed on as a consultant role, like not assistant manager, like in the setup, like Brian Kerr was to him, kind of situation of just a bit of advice, bit of a sounding board.
What about as an actual just normal coach rather than an assistant coach? Whereas it's going to be a little bit more hands off.
I don't think he'd do it.
Media and stuff.
I don't think he would have done it. You know, I think it would have worked better, but I don't think he would have done it from a financial perspective as well.
Well, another decision that we may come to regret. Obviously, England have announced their squads as well. Lee Carsley, more importantly, has announced his under-21 squad. Did everyone forget Lee Carsley is still the England under-21 manager?
I genuinely did.
it was one of the kind of ones that kind of felt like he'd left. But
Yeah.
he didn't. But we may not be happy with him this week because he's called up 3 people I've been calling for to be called up for Ireland. Obviously, Joe Bellingham.
Is Dennis Cirkin one of them?
Dennis Cirkin is one of them.
Oh my
He's got
God.
an England under 21
It's
call-up.
happened.
So that may come back to bite us. Joe Bellingham, obviously, kind of
We were never going to get him, ever.
less likely. But hey, Wayne Rooney said we could have had him. So I hold out hope.
I think he knew what he was doing there. He was around Paddy's Day. He was trying to curry favour in that pod.
No, I think a 16-year-old getting an opportunity for a funded international cap in a friendly, he absolutely would have done it. And then England would have come in and says, yeah, we're going to cap you next time. Don't do it again. Okay, happy out. But the other one, which I was surprised about, and he's playing very, very well. And I think this is a position that we really could have done, especially in light of the Doherty chat, is CJ Egan-Riley from Burnley. So he can play centre-back, he can play right-back, he can play kind of defensive
Utility
midfield.
player, yeah.
But he's really, really good, kind of can play with the ball. Like he kind of broke through under company. Like he can play football. And now he's after getting an England under 21 call up. Is this another batch of players, Nate, that we're missing out on by just not being proactive?
Yeah, like I think there's a difference that, you know, they're only getting called up to the English 21, so there's still a chance. I think England are probably just covering their bases in terms of like they're on the radar. Let's try and keep them sweet. You know, the ball's in Ireland's court whether they want them or not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, I know we're saying that Ireland has issues with some older players getting called up for their squad, but the England team, obviously this being, what is it, Tuchel's first window?
Yeah.
Calling up Jordan Henderson and Kyle Walker.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed to it. Mainly for the fact
Once
that...
there's nurses on the side of the pitch.
Like, the Walker one, I don't think was needed. But I think the Henderson one, you know, he very much has been talked about by his peers as a manager on the pitch. He's also beloved by the squad. I think Tuchel knows what he's doing in the fact that it's his first training camp. He wants it to be familiar for the players. I don't think it's a long-term solution, obviously, and it'd be interesting to see how many windows he's called up for. I'd imagine Henderson will get the first handful anyway. I think it akin to what we were saying with O'Shea in a transition period. I think this helps Tuchel from a in-camp perspective, not from a footballing perspective, but from an in-camp perspective.
Nate, what was your reaction to Marcus Rashford getting the call up?
Yeah, fair play. Like, I think it felt a bit like a spite one. Like, I don't think we've seen enough from him to go from where he wasn't getting called up to now getting called up. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think Tuchel's gonna have to experiment and see what players he likes, what players he doesn't like. Rashford on a good day probably suits Tuchel's profile, so I reckon that's the reason why he's gone for him.
And obviously Conor, Dan Byrne getting his call up.
You love to see it. I mean, ripe old age of 32, getting your first England call up.
He's the second or third, if he gets capped, he'd be the second or third oldest debutant for England. I think Kevin Davies is the oldest at 35 or 36 when he was at Bolton.
35 making your debut, Christ. Yeah, no,
One cap.
I'm delighted for him. I think when you see where he's come from, like non-league football, lower league football, it's nice to just see someone live out their dream, and deservedly so. He is there. How many caps he'll get, who knows? But long live Big Dan Burn.
Well, speaking of long live, Conor, there's some players that apparently weren't doing that over in Bulgaria. What was that about?
Oh God, this one really tickled me. So a Bulgarian football club called Arda Kadzhali have had to apologise for holding a minute's silence for a former player who is still very much alive, my friends. So basically, picture this: two full teams round the centre circle, halfway line, full minute silence. I mean, we're talking picture up on the screen. Just thinking, what a nice tribute to a former player. Not dead, very much not dead. So the poor man's wife, he'd popped out for the day. His wife flicked on the telly, saw this, hadn't a clue what was what was going on. And then player comes home. His name's Petko Ganchev. Wife's in absolute tears. He's like, what's going on? She's like, you're apparently dead.
Stephen! I thought you were dead! Fucking hell!
Literally the wife.
Very much that. But my favourite bit of the whole thing was the club had to come out and obviously apologise for what happened. And the club said the following: the management of PFC Arda would like to express huge apology to former Arda player Petko Ganchev and his relatives after the club received wrong information about his death. This is my favourite bit, though. We wish Petro Ganchev many more years of good health and to enjoy the success of Arda. Somehow they still made it a positive note at the end. But yeah, I'm sure it's probably the first time that's ever happened, but it'll live rent-free in my brain for forevermore.
My favourite bit out of the whole thing, Nate, was apparently when he found out, he says, oh, when I heard the tragic news, I poured myself a brandy. Love it. That's the stuff.
Honestly, like, that's the most bizarre story I think I've ever heard. Like, I don't understand how it gets to that point.
Well, that's, yeah, how many hands does it have to go through? Evidently not many, to get to the point. It has to
be cleared by the ref. The other team have to find out, and nobody went, yeah, should we send a condolence to the wife? Well, on a story that won't be topped, we shan't even try. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. As always, and we'll chat to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Messi.